If he pushes on my arm while I'm standing, I should be able to offer some resistance. So push on my wrist, push on my wrist. So when he pushes on my wrist while I'm standing, I can feel the pressure from when he pushes on my right wrist, go ahead and push, I feel my left foot digging harder into the ground. This is called ward off energy. Okay, it's keeping the structure you need in your techniques to be effective. So when you're standing, you're practicing ward off and you're practicing rooting. Okay, thanks, Aaron. Now my feet are shoulder width distance apart. So after standing, the next thing you need to learn how to do is how to walk. So there are 3 lines on the ground in front of me right now. The line your foot is on is called the first line. Okay? So in order to take a step, I start by lifting up my toe, my right toe, and now I'm going to turn my shoulders 45 degrees that way. And my toe is going to move with my shoulders 45 degrees. That's the first step. Now, my toe is going to go down, and then once my toe is down, I'm going to move all my weight onto this leg. When you do that, that's called filling up that leg. So, when I bring my toe up, turn my body. Now, when I bring my toe up and turn my shoulders, this leg is more full than this leg. This leg is somewhat empty because I've already put so much weight onto this leg. Now that this toe is going down, I'm now going to fill up this leg. I'm going to fill up this leg to empty this leg. And so this leg is going to come up on its tiptoe. Now, this is where different yang styles, different schools of yang style Tai Chi start to differ very drastically and in a concerning way to me personally, which is what happens now when you take your step forward. So what's going to happen here is I'm going to keep my toe out on this line, out on that first line. But I'm going to lift it maybe a centimeter off the ground the whole time. Now it's not dragging along, it is just enough so that I do not feel the ground when I step out. Now that my toe is out that far, so now my shoulders are turned this way, I've taken this step out. Now that my toe is out this far, I'm going to reach down with my heel like this. Now that my heel has connected, this leg is still empty, so I can still go like this. Okay, I can still do this, even though my heel is down. Then my foot. So starting from here, I bring my toe up, I turn 45 degrees. My foot comes down and I fill up that leg. I come up on my tiptoes here. I take a step out, so my heel's touching. Now what's going to happen is as my toe goes down to the ground, my shoulders are going to square back up forward, like this. Now this leg is still empty. I can still do this. I can still do this. Okay? Taking it from the beginning. Bring my toe up. I turn 45 degrees. My toe goes down and I fill up that leg. Come up on the toe on my other foot. Reach out with the heel. Toe goes down and I square back up. Okay? Now I'm going to empty this leg and fill this leg. Now I'm going to come back and I'm going to fill my back leg and empty my front leg. Now the toe on my front leg is going to come up. I'm going to turn 45 degrees. Toe is going to go down. I fill up that leg. Come up on the toe on this foot. Reach out with my heel. As my toe goes down, my body squares up. My hips come forward. My hips come back. My toe comes up, I turn 45 degrees. It comes down, I fill it up. Come up on my toe, reach forward with my heel. Toe goes down, I square back up. Move forward, move back. So that's called Tai Chi Walking. So I'm going to do it without counting it out. So you're just going to see what natural Tai Chi Walking looks like without somebody counting it. Looks like this. Okay, this looks like it's a moving forward motion, but you'll notice that as I fill up one leg and fill up the other leg, I try to keep my spine perpendicular to the ground, like when I'm doing my standing. What happens is, if I go this far, that's enough for a fist to miss my face right here, and if I go this far, that's enough for a fist to miss my head on this side. So by emptying and filling legs, I actually have some head movement for dealing with straight punches. Moving backwards isn't the same. So typically when you're moving backwards in Tai Chi, instead of using what we call the first line, and there's 3 lines. So if you're on the first line, the outside line is called the third line. So if I'm over here, that's the third line. I'm stepping on the third line. So I'm over here now. This is the first line. I'm stepping on the third line. Okay? Now, if you're moving backwards, especially if you're moving backwards fat, quickly, you're typically not doing this footwork in reverse. Instead, you tend to be on the second line and taking rapid steps back like that, right on the second line. You don't usually advance that way, but you will quite often retreat on the second line. Okay, so I want to point something out about this kind of footwork. They say in Tai Chi that every step is a kick. This is why. If I'm here, I don't have any weight on this foot right here, I can kick with this foot, right? If I empty this leg, I can kick with this foot. Okay, and those kicks show up in Tai Chi all the time. So, in the different Yang styles that are out there, you'll see all kinds of kicks. You see the front kick with the toe. You see the front kick with the heel. You see what is now called an oblique kick, but it's been in Yang style a long time. Okay, so there's no reason why it couldn't be a round kick or anything else. So I want to talk about some common errors, and I want to talk about why it's important. So, Yang Chen Fu popularized Tai Chi throughout the world with his Yang style, but he had two very different types of students. About 99% of his students were customers, and what the customers did is they were allowed to copy his form movements and imitate him, and he gave very little feedback to them on if the form was good or not good. And his other students, the 1% of his students, which you might call in-house students or live-in students or insider students, the students he was training to carry on the lineage, did the traditional style of Tai Chi training, which was the first 4 years was all static postures. So one static posture is standing meditation like this. This is a static posture. But for example, with the static posture of brush knee can look like this. But if you're static posture training brush knee, you'll hold this for 5 minutes, maybe longer. They were said to have been holding these stances for some people think they were holding it for like an hour this way. But 15, 30 minutes, they were definitely doing something like that. So if I were to do parting the horse's mane, they sit here and hold this static position for 15 minutes. So their entire first 4 years of training in Yang style was developing this extreme efficiency structures. So one of the big differences between Chen style and Yang style is Chen style is still doing the same normal way to do martial arts, which is that the form is following the function. Yang style went off the deep end and decided to develop efficient forms and then apply those forms to fighting. So the weirdest thing about Yang style is it's not form follow function, it's function following form. So if you develop this, oh look, I have this very efficient movement that I can hold for 30 minutes like this and not be in excruciating pain at the end, now you know you have a very efficient movement. And so now it's a question of how can I apply that movement to a fight? Now typically a movement will have a blocking application, a striking application, and a grappling application. In the case of brush knee, what we have is you got a palm strike, you got a push, and then for a block, if they're throwing a punch at you, and you just reach out and touch their shoulder to push their shoulder back, that would be one way to block. But another thing is when you do brush knee, you'll very often be like this. So when you're coming down like this to go into brush knee, that would also be tapping down a punch and then coming down over the top of the punch into a palm strike. So I don't want to get into brush knee, but I'm just saying that you have these three different energies. You have these three different applications to almost every Tai Chi move. So what you're doing with your feet in Yang style is not trivial. It's extremely important because it builds the rest of the structure and the efficiency of the structure of all these movements that they worked on, developing these very efficient ward-off structures in. So, so when Yang Chen Fu essentially did the first big McDojo selling out of a style that we know of, and that has made Tai Chi so popular that there's more people practicing Tai Chi than all other martial arts combined. That's how successful Yang Chen Fu McDojoing Tai Chi actually was. What his insider students thought is extremely important, and how good his insider students were at fighting would be very important. Now, as far as we know, his best insider student was someone by the name of Hu Yan Chao. That name is also pronounced Wu Van Chao. And he's well known for his Chole Fat, but he's even better known for his Ying style Tai Chi. So, my instructor was Vern Miller, who's famous for training Margaret McGregor for winning that boxing match against a man in the year 2000. Vern Miller studied in Hong Kong directly with Hu Yan Chao, and he asked him some extremely specific questions about Ying style footwork, because even back then in the late 80s and early 90s, it was unclear exactly how this footwork worked. Hu Yan Chao was extremely adamant about these details that Vern took careful notes on. You step out on the third line like this. You do not drag your toe along. It's not some Bagua mudslide step. It's all the way up off the ground, but it looks almost as if we're sliding on the ground, but it is completely off the ground. Okay? Then you reach out on this line, your foot comes down like that. That's how you step forward. Here's common mistakes. In the wushu style of Yang style Tai Chi, we see a lot of, number one, we see them getting in very, very low stances. So they'll get all the way down like this. So now they're all the way down here and moving all the way up here and moving all the way back here. Well, they're losing a lot of their application when they get their butt down to their knee level when they're doing all this stuff. They're losing a lot of application. The second thing we see is we see them bringing their feet together as they move forward. So they'll go like this, bring their foot together, and then reach out and step out and move forward and back. The issue with that is, what is the range of the application? Because when you're bringing your feet together like that, that's for when you're covering a lot of distance, like when we're doing weapon fighting. Or maybe if you're really running away in a boxing or kickboxing match. That's when you're bringing your feet together like that. With grappling, you're only bringing your feet together like that if you're doing it for a specific lifting technique to get them off the ground. And you're only doing it for a small fraction of a second, and it's not your normal footwork pattern. Because every time you bring your feet together like this, close range, you're at a very high risk of getting both feet swept out from under you. So, another problem we see when people are doing this footwork is they'll bring their foot all the way up to their butt when they step. And I know for a fact there's quite a few of people in Hu Yan Chao's lineage that have picked up this bad habit from outside of his teaching. So they'll go like this. Foot comes up to the butt, reaches down. Okay? So again, what they're doing, which you should never do, is here, bring your foot all the way up, bring it down, here. Bring your foot all the way up, bring it down, here. The reason why you don't want to do that at close range is just for the obvious fact that you don't want to be hopping around on one foot at close range. That's not a good idea. So if I keep my foot very close to the ground as I step and pressure gets put on me, I can instantly just connect with the ground and grapple from there. Okay, so one last time, here's how you do the footwork correctly. Let's say you're in a standing position. Okay, you got your line set up. When you're standing already, your center line would be called the second line. You got your first line, your third line. Now, walking is not a substitute for standing meditation. Walking is no substitute for standing. It's just core to the techniques in Yang style. So I'm just going to give you a couple examples. Look at my feet while I'm doing brush knee. Okay? So while I'm doing brush knee, watch my feet. See the feet? If I don't have that distance and I'm doing this kind of stuff instead, over here on the first line, where I'm doing this weak second line stuff, that doesn't work as good as this does. Okay? The feet. Step out on the third line.